What's your top wow, that actually worked moment? Went to check into a hotel, and I asked him if there was a parking fee. He replied with yes, it's $15 a night. I asked, any chance you could waive it? He replied with, yeah sure. I was like, okay, thanks lol. Saved me $60. I worked for Marriott for 5 years. If you're nice and respectful, you can get a lot of free upgraded crap at hotels. The employees have to deal with so many buttholes during a shift that giving a genuinely nice person free stuff feels really good. Went to a music festival a few years ago with a bunch of friends who only paid for the campsite, but not for the festival itself. I did pay for the festival and had my wristband on, but I joined my friends trying to sneak in just for the fun of it. We walked around in the nearby fields to end up somewhere at the backstage, hiding behind a tent. The backstage was separated from the festival with a pop-up fence. They usually have an entrance with a security guard somewhere, but we couldn't immediately locate it. So I came up with an idea. Since I had my legit wristband on, I had nothing to lose. So I just pretended to be really drunk, having stumbled into the backstage by accident while trying to find a place to pee. As soon as I left our hiding spot, someone noticed me, and I just went, where the fuck is the entrance here? And the backstage guy just showed me how to get back onto the festival terrain. I stumbled through the opening in the fence, and as soon as the guy was out of sight, my friends followed. My little piece of acting got 5 of my friends a free festival day that day. It still amazes me. I met a girl in Thailand who bragged about her family and how her dad is a record exec. She said if I ever dropped their name at a BA lounge they would let me in. I was in London 2 years later, and at the airport I asked them to look up the name at the lounge and they let me right in. Guy I know told me about a hidden Wi-Fi he set up at an airport. Didn't really believe it, but I got there and my phone connected. When I was about 11 and computer monitors were all just becoming flat screen, we bought a crappy little LCD. Just my luck, the plug didn't have a third pin and short-circuited within a week of getting it. The monitor's colors were all messed up, flickering between distorted, random colors, and outright all becoming one solid color then going back. This happened momentarily every few minutes. My parents refused to buy me a new one because I broke my new monitor. It wasn't my fault. So being the bored kid I was, I just did my best to use it anyway. I remember it so very clearly. I was playing Warrock, and the screen blacked out right before a firefight and got me killed. I was like, alright, if my parents won't buy me a new one since this is half working, so I'll just break it completely. Without a second though, I punched it in the center right then and there. This fixed the monitor. There was discoloration around where I punched it and a line through the middle, but no more random colors, no more flickering. A few years later I got a new monitor and my dad was going to take my old one. I moved it from my computer to his, and when I first set it up, the colors were all messed up. I told him I knew how to fix it. I punched it again expecting it to break. They all looked at me like I was insane and asked what the heck I was doing. It worked. It still works. 12 years later and he's still using the same monitor with a line going through it where I punched it. This actually happened to me as well, but the reason I punched it was because I was mad at whatever game I was playing, young and stupid. It fixed the discoloration and there was one single light green line where I had punched it. I walked into a festival at midnight, no ticket, showed the security guard my wrist. He flashed his flashlight at my wrist and pushed me through the gate. I had a really tough math problem in calc I didn't know the answer to. Something that used hip hop rap sales as a reference. I didn't know it, ran out of time, and it was the last question on the assignment. So I wrote rap died in 1996 with Tupac. She marked it right, obviously out of oversight, but my buddy beside me tried really hard to answer it, got the wrong answer, and the professor marked him incorrect. He was flabbergasted. When my grandmother was passing away, I drove up to the small Texas town she lived in to tend to her affairs and arrange her funeral. Like the tough warrior woman she was, she hung in there for longer than the doctors expected. I'm not complaining. It gave me a few extra days to talk to her and tell her how much I loved her and listen to her talk with the little energy she had. Because of that, I had burned through my clean clothes and needed to do some laundry. Problem is, as I was staying in my grandmother's home and no one had lived there in a while, there was no detergent. As I was stepping out the door to head to the store, I remembered my grandmother kept a huge coupon binder on the dinette table. It was a hobby for her, clipping and sorting coupons for crap she'd never buy. So I opened the cover and right there on the first page, there's a pocket absolutely brimming with Tide coupons. I'm sure 90% of them were expired, but I grabbed the wad and left. I bypass Walmart and head to the only other grocery store in town. This small squatty dump of a building which looks like a relic from the 60s. I go in, grab the detergent and head to the counter. There's no one in line and the cashier, a homely stick-thin red-headed girl, looks like she's going to die from boredom. This it? That's it. Oh hang on. I have these coupons. I think most of them might be expired but, and with that, she takes the wad of coupons and starts scanning them one at a time. That's alright. My manager says as long as they scan, we can take them. Oh, alright. Thank you. But I only have the one box of detergent. I know. See, usually accept 3 of the same coupon, but seeing as it's double your savings Saturday, I can run them twice. Each time she swipes the coupon, the register chirps pleasantly. Then, after scanning coupons for what seemed to be 10 solid minutes, she hits a button and minus 9.85 flickers across the dingy LED display. Oh, looks like you owe me money. Hahaha, I know. Just hang on a minute and I'll get it. You got 15 cents on you so I can make it an even 10? Are you serious? You're going to pay me to take a box of laundry detergent off your hands? Well, yeah, that's why you brought all them coupons, right? And that's the story of how a store paid me $10 to take a box of laundry detergent off their hands. Great story. Had a then friend whose behavior was kind of sketchy and suspicious. All kinds of red flags with this guy, but no real proof of his sociopath nature. Just several suspicions. So one day I checked up on one of his stories. He'd have brand new vehicles for a while, then they'd mysteriously vanish. He claimed to be rich, from mafia money, and he just got tired of that new Corvette or motorcycle or whatever. So I called the dealership where his last expensive car had been purchased and pretended to be a private detective, working on behalf of a rich client, who was thinking of doing business with my then friend. Just checking out his reliability, I told the guy, we see he bought a Corvette. The guy told me everything about how my friend put some short money down on the car then failed to make even a single payment afterwards, and successfully evaded the repo man for months until they finally caught up to him. I couldn't get away with it today, with everyone suspicious of phishing social engineering. Back then people were more naive and would spill the beans easily if you sounded legit on the phone. I couldn't get away with it today, you'd be surprised. Told this girl in 2nd grade I was a psychic just to troll and she didn't believe me, of course, so she asked me to predict something. I said, you're going to scream right now, and as she was saying, that's dumb. Why would I? A kindergartner playing tag randomly fell and rolled back into her legs and she screamed. She was really scared of me after that, lol. Fans on my old MacBook had stopped working. Searched on YouTube for a fix and found a video that said sometimes there can be lint dust etc. clogging up the spinny mechanisms. A good thumping can get them back in order. The guy in the video proceeded to hammer the computer with his fists and the fans came back on. I shrugged, gave it a shot, and to my surprise, they hummed back to life and I was back in business. Still can't believe it. I polished tile floors with a propane buffer. We were unloading the machine from the van when wind slammed the door shut. The door hit the oil fill tube and shattered it. Needed to find a way to fix it so we could do the jobs for the night. It was 2 in the morning and the only place open was Walmart. Walked around the hardware and automotive department for about 20 minutes trying to find something to fix it. Ended up with a pack of rubber feet for a brass tool, self-taping screws, and had a roll of universal metal strap in my toolbox. I plugged the hole with the rubber foot. It was tapered and fit perfectly. Then ran the metal strap over the foot and screwed it into the frame of the machine. Took a week to get a replacement part and that held the whole time. Just couldn't check the oil for the week. This is a lot like how emergency response teams seal leaking chemical barrels, golf tees, pieces of rubbers, and ratchet straps. Crap works. After hours of trying to repair a broken digital camera, I went to throw it away. I shrugged and dropped it on the linoleum. Heard a horrible crack. The motor turned on, making a jackhammer sound before it clicked and became a smooth hum. The camera worked after that. This is how I used to fix my PS2 in high school. The 2-foot drop technique kept that sumbitch running for an extra 2 years. I repair slot machines for a living. One was frozen in game state with well over $1,000 on it. All the doors were closed. No jams in the dollar acceptor or the voucher printer. All the lights were on and the software just stopped mid-spin. I was thinking the game finally died and we'd need to reimburse the guest for their lost money, which can take a while if it's a crap ton of money like this. The guest jokingly asked if it just needed its butt kicked to work again, and I figured that since this game is old and durable, I'll indulge him. I kicked it, and the game came right back up, and the guest proceeded to win another $500 or so from that spin. Game was good for the rest of the day, too. No errors or anything. I played it off as gracefully as I could, but I think that was my life's peak and I'll never look that freaking cool to anybody ever again. Well played, Fonzie. I was a network engineer for an ISP at the time, and I had to get to a mountaintop where one of our towers were located to perform some maintenance. Had to ride a snowmobile all the way up there, and when I got there I realized I forgot the keys to the enclosure. Not to be defeated, I tried to pick the lock, and I got it to open after about 20 minutes of trying. Yay, I didn't have to quit for the day and got the work done. Well done. Sounds like a nice gig having to use a snowmobile to get to the job. I was 12 and didn't know how to swim. I wound up in the deep end of a pool with dozens of other people who didn't realize I disappeared underwater. I struggled for a second, then remembered something my childhood friend told me. All you have to do to float is bend over in water. I never had the guts to try when she told me, but I was about to die. So, I just let my body relax and bent over in the water by my waist and floated to the surface, alive. I couldn't believe it was as simple as she said. I'm just glad I didn't latch on to someone else in the pool and drown them while trying to climb up to the surface. I hear that happens a lot. Please, I hope you learned how to swim. Back in the 80s my family had no phone, and as a teenager I had to call my friends from a payphone. Long girly calls cost me a fortune. These were the old dial phones. You had dart to put your money in and then it allowed you to dial. And I noticed that when I dialed a particular digit there were a corresponding number of blip sounds in the earpiece. I also noted that when I depressed the button which the receiver sat on there was the same tone. So I tried hitting that button the amount of times for each digit of my friend's telephone number. Egg the number 6,654,321. I'd hit the button 6 times, pause and 6 times, pause and 5 times and so on. That allowed me to bypass putting in money and make free calls. Early hacking. Making a cult Sony from scratch for my cooking class in high school. It was toward the end of the year, and my mind was not on the recipe. We were making the dough and I misread the recipe. I added 2 tea of sugar and 0 oil. I only realized it when I got to the end and had a little bowl of oil left. Next day we take out our doughs, prep and bake the calzones. Our dough came out fantastic, if a little pale. The other groups had dough that was weirdly yellow, and most of them just ate the inside. No one knew of my mistake because it worked. I wish I could say it was intentional, that I added extra sugar to feed the yeast or something clever, but nope. It was inattention that led to a lovely lunch. Are you the Half-Blood Prince? My friend and I were in community college, and Halo 3 just came out. We had papers due for our English class the next morning, which did not get done. When the teacher asked us why they weren't done, I just told her we were up all night playing Xbox in front of the whole class. She laughed, appreciated the honesty, and let us turn it in late since we didn't lie. I understand that. Halo 3 is a very good game. Opened a wine bottle using a shoe when no opener could be found. Had seen a gimmicky done YouTube clip sometime in the prior months and gave it a shot. I can open a beer with literally anything that's not a wobbly sausage. If it had some firmness to it, that beer is getting opened. Decided on a whim to make some peanut sauce. Peanut butter, soy sauce, a little water, and it was looking close but kind of clotting when I stopped stirring. Randomly remember learning that vanilla goes in cookies and crap BC it helps stuff mix. So add a dash of vanilla and the sauce instantly comes together. Felt like a mad genius. This is actually really good information. I'm going to use your vanilla trick in the future. Noticed an error on our website that would affect customers. Emailed the web team about it thinking they'd ignore it until someone higher up brought it to their attention. They read it, implemented changes, and CC'd my director to thank me for the input. Hey, as a web person, thanks. I'd personally rather know from an internal user than an upset customer or something even worse coming down the line. It's better to speak up rather than have it go downhill and make life so much worse for us than something we can correct. The first time my wife and I went out to eat with our new baby, he was sitting in a baby seat next to the table, and he started crying. I picked up a salt shaker and set it right in front of him, and said, "Watch this," and he looked at the salt and stopped crying. Babies are weird. Got a free watch offer from a decent company I'd bought from before, but you had to spend over $300. I added 4 of the free watches, which were usually $75, into the cart, which registered as $300. I went to check out and a green -$300 appears in the bill. Added my shipping address and 2 weeks later they came. I was flying somewhere. After everyone else was boarded, I went up to the gate agent and asked about being upgraded to first class. After a bunch of typing on her computer, she said sure and asked how I would like to pay for it. I said by asking nicely. To my amazement, she gave me a boarding pass for my new first class seat. I remember playing hide and seek with my cousins when we were kids. We were hiding when my youngest cousin at the time, about elementary school age, came into the room. I said, "There's nobody here but us chickens like in a cartoon I'd seen." She said, "Okay," and left. Modern problems require modern solutions. Told my boss I wouldn't accept a new position they offered me if I didn't get a 25% pay increase. I didn't really think it would work and that they would try to counter my offer, but it did. My wife and I went to a pretty large size concert venue in our town to see our favorite act, Casey Musgraves, and decided to go out for drinks prior to the event. The concert was a general admission event, with a limited number of pit pass seats, which would allow you to get right up to the stage. My wife wanted to get to the venue as soon as possible, as she wanted to get the best seats we could, since our tickets were simple GA and not in the pit pass area. I was very reluctant to go sit and wait hours for the show to start, and convinced her to stay out to drink until minutes before Casey got on stage. By the time we made it to the concert venue, it was obvious our GA seats would be very near the back with limited view of the stage. To say my wife was not happy would be an understatement. At this point I have had enough liquor in me that my confidence was through the roof, and the disappointment from my wife was eating at me. So I decided to walk over to the pit pass to see if there was any way I could talk my way into the section. As I approached the security guard, I noticed all the people being let into the section were wearing white wristbands. I casually walked back to my wife and told her I needed a couple minutes to put my plan into action, and that when I returned I was going to ask her to do something super dumb but to trust me and act like we belong. I then walked into the restroom and entered a stall. I grabbed enough toilet paper to tie it around my wrist a couple times, hoping it could possibly pass as a wristband in the dark environment. I then grabbed enough extra toilet paper to make one for my wife. I returned and asked her to let me put on her toilet paper wristband. She by this point is laughing hysterically, and that was the extra boost I needed to ensure this plan was going to work. I led the way to the restricted area and approached the security guard and confidently flashed her my wristband, as did my wife. We were both granted access to the pit area and got to the front of the stage just moments before Casey started her set. Needless to say, my wife and I still retell this story as often as we can. The entire grade went on a field trip to a bowling arcade place to celebrate completing middle school. I was at a claw machine. Not sure exactly what it's called. I'm talking about the machine where you direct a claw and try to grab a toy with it. And I asked my friend to look at the claw from the side to see if it was lined up with the toy I wanted. Just then, a boy from another class walked up and said to me, "You know that those are a scam, right?" I was flustered and hit the button to lower the claw without even waiting for my friend to tell me if it was lined up properly. The claw came back up with 2 toys and dropped them in the collection box. The boy was silent for a moment before saying that was actually pretty good and walking away. I'll never be so cool again in my entire life. Went to a dirt track race in the middle of Illinois. My friend went to buy his own tickets. I walked up the front gate and pulled out a Missouri Conservation Heritage card I bought for $2 to renew my turkey hunting tags. I walked up the front gate, drunk mind you, and said in a friendly but stern and confident voice, "Sir, this is my Missouri Conservation Heritage card." Gestured to the gate and followed up with, "I think this should be fine enough." He goes, "Missouri Cons or what?" Even more stern, "Missouri Department of Conservation Heritage card. Sir, it says right here." He just goes, "Oh right. Department of Missouri, yes right away, go on through." I said thanks and walked in. I think the confidence I showed, as if my card meant anything, let alone in another state, was enough for him to go, "Who cares, I'll just let him in." I saved like $7, but it was a fun story when my buddy asked how I got in before him. I don't want to argue with a drunk. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.